Good morning, everybody. Hi, how are you? Oh, my camera's tilted again. Hold on one second. Nope, wrong way. Nope, just barely. I'm trying to use as much of the camera as I can without. There you go. It's better? Yeah, it's better. Good morning. Hi, how are you? Welcome to the show. It's Monday. Boy, is it. You know, it's more Monday for some people than others. I'm guessing after the weekend that the Democrats had, and I guess more the Republicans had, it's more of a Monday for them. Still an ongoing process. The Senate's in recess for August, and the House will pick up the bill that passed this weekend and will pass it on Friday with less hammering and finagling than was necessary. Probably, what do you think? Let the Republicans stew over the weekend, sign it on Monday. Let Glenn Beck and his ilk get a few more stories on their channel before it actually becomes law, and everybody's like, oh, so it's not so much the end of the world. Bob, by the way, Bob Cesca is going to be joining us second hour, and this is my attempt to mature the morning show a little bit. No pressure, Bob. But since we've had Wednesdays with Philip many times, I thought it'd be kind of nice on occasion, if not regularly, depending on how often I can pull this off, turning the second hour into a guest portion, if that's cool with you guys occasionally. So I can come on and have kind of a conversation with people who, because I mean, they're not really, interview podcasty kind of things, but it'd be nice to hear their take on the internet takes that go on. Yeah? Sound like a good idea on occasion? Just in case you guys start getting bored of me. And especially leading up to the sexy liberal shows, I'd love to have Frangela and John Fugelsang come on and help me promote and that kind of thing and push it. I know we're never going to get Steph to do an extra hour a day. She's already doing a bunch of other shit right after her show besides dog walking the giant doggage. But yeah, thanks, Mia. I try to keep it interesting. Boy, do I. And can I just say for the record, and this is, I don't even know how to share. If anything sums up Maggie Haberman's career and her position in the political world more than this, I don't know what does. I'm sneezing. This bit right here. These are, and a bunch of people are like, this is not true. These were staged. Clearly, these were staged. It's staged. Maggie Haberman finds evidence of Donald Trump clogging toilets with White House records. This, I mean, I don't know why this is a surprise to anybody other than, I think the least shocking thing about this, is that is Maggie Haberman is dovetailing her stories looking into Trump's toilet. And if that doesn't sum up her kind of journalistic circumstance, I don't know what does. But the other part that, what we find out more from this and the Trump stuff is, quite frankly, that somebody doesn't flush. That they don't, apparently, this is where the complaints about Trump, you flush and nothing happens. That's where it came from, apparently. This is White House and Air Force One? No. Periodically found, okay, Trump will report the White House resident staff periodically found wads of paper clogging a toilet and believed the former president was the flusher. Why it matters. Trump denied it. Whose New York Times coverage he follows compulsively. He called Haberman a maggot. Apparently, me calling these folks maggots is really making the rounds these days. And as the person who coined the phrase maggot, all caps, except the T and the S, I couldn't be prouder that this is the word maggot is bugging Trump. For the record, I'm very proud. This is her book that's coming up, and she's got pictures in it. The handwriting is visibly Trump's, written in Sharpie. Yeah, most of the words are illegible, which proves further that it's Trump's handwriting. It's true. Yes. But scrawls include the name of Rep. Elise Stefanik of upstate New York, a Trump defender who's a member of the House Republican leadership. Apparently, it was a short list of who's going to be his VP next time. Just, oh, by the way, this happened. Can we just watch the boo fuckity who on the Republican / TYT Jimmy Dores / former Bernie bros? Like, the weirdest part is the attacks on Democrats for getting this stuff done with as few votes as they actually have and accomplishing as much as they did with this idea that you couldn't have a pure bill devoid of any kind of, extras for certain people, as if we didn't even have the votes to pass it normally in this format. You think you're going to add or other stuff or take away other perks and still get the fucking thing passed? Are you nuts? The if we don't get everything, nobody gets anything crowd was really upset in the last 48 hours. I mean, pissed. By the way, 43 Republicans voted against putting a cap on insulin that was for everyone. There's a cap on insulin costs for anyone on Medicare in this bill, but the Republicans blocked extending it to everyone else, which is about 7 million people in the country, approximately, and that need insulin that aren't on Medicare, that need the cap or what have you. That's the latest number, about 7 million regularly. And as expenses go in the United States of America, not tremendously enormous. You could literally shave a quarter of a point off of a Trump tax bill, a tax cut, and ultimately pay for that. And the people who got the tax cut that Trump put out wouldn't have even noticed the difference materially in their lives. That money would not have made a significant amount of difference in their lives. It would have made a huge difference in the balancing act of this. Now, I personally think that since insulin cannot be patented, that the government is probably better off, creating, a insulin production facility, much like the Winchester Ammo Factory. That's a private-public partnership that provides this first, and any leftover they can sell in the world to people who are diabetic or need it. Medicare for all. Then, Deborah, that's not happening. It's not going to happen, and it won't happen. We need more Democrats even to just get the normal stuff we want. But I personally think we talked about this ammo story a while back about how Glenn Beck is freaking out because the United States is ordering less extra ammo, so there's less extra ammo and overages made by this one factory that they can then sell cheaply onto the market, and making the price of private ownership of ammo go up to a normal rate instead of the subsidized rate, which I don't understand how Republicans get to dodge that frigging talking point. They are mad because they're going to lose government subsidized ammunition in this country. All right. Yet everybody else who wants anything government subsidized is somehow, evil commie, blah, blah, blah. But in the meantime, since we do have a system set up where we have public-private partnerships, and, one of the ways that the private company can profit beyond what they can make from creating a factory to create something the government needs a lot of and making money off of that is that they can sell overages. So producing, and making an insulin factory that produces enough insulin for everybody in the United States who needs it, and then producing it, any overage they can sell on the world market to any country that wants to buy it, seems, yeah. T1T is on record that none of Biden's agenda will happen. Oh, yes, they're on record that I think, what was the last thing that Cenk was like? Democrats are bastards. They're sons of bitches. They don't care about you. Also, they do nothing. And that there's like an Axios article I tweeted this morning that I just thought was funny. The title of it was like Biden's BFD. Hold on. See if I can find this. It was so funny. Biden's BFD. Oh, I'm in caps lock, but that's right. There it is. This one. This is the article he put up, Biden's BFD. And they list the numbers of things he's gotten done. The rescue plan with the COVID stimulus, the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, the confirmation of the first black Supreme Court justice, gun safety legislation, CHIPS, the semiconductor manufacturing, U.S. competitiveness with China bill, NATO expansion, including Finland and Sweden, veterans healthcare expansion. Then this bill, a baseline tax on billion-dollar corporations that they must pay a minimum tax of 15%. Fuck you if you don't see that that's amazing, that just happened. Then al-Zawahiri's gone. The huge jobs numbers in July, which threw everybody into a cocked hat. And then I love this, but the context is the key, is the thing. Biden's approval rating has been stuck below 40%, dragging down Democrats facing challenges in November. Well, whose fucking fault is that? Apparently not the people who either aren't reporting this list or are reporting it poorly. Then inflation is still very real. Well, if gas prices continue to come down and they and used cars are the majority of the CPI increase, what do you think Black Friday is going to look like this year? Some of the effects of the reconciliation bill, including lower prescription drug prices for a broad number of Americans, may take months or years to be felt. Yeah, so we should have had enough Democratic votes to pass it years ago, but we didn't. And why do stuff? Why plant a tree if you're not going to sit under its shade? What the fuck is the point? And Obamacare shows Dems in 2010 shellacking getting major legislation through Congress doesn't always help the party in power, at least not in the short run. By the way, incredibly popular now. For the record. Well, I would argue credibly popular. So this list right here, on top of what just passed, that's quality governing. That's actual shit getting actually done to help actual people in reality. And like I said, Republicans are obviously mad because they couldn't pass an infrastructure bill. They don't want black people on the Supreme Court, it seems, unless they toe the line of Scalia or are married to lunatics like Ginny Thomas. Gun safety legislation, enough said. The CHIPS bill, again, one of the things that got Cinema on board was passing this first. All this, they haven't really talked. Manchin hasn't talked to Cinema yet. Bullshit. That was not part of it ever. Schumer was talking to Cinema about the CHIPS Act, which helps Arizona. This I can understand why the tankies hate it. And then again, the fact that you had Republicans throttling the fucking PACT Act. I mean, the ads this year, Democrats, the ads this year are really fucking easy to make. You have all the right votes, your opponent has all the wrong votes, and you're for voting and your opponent is against voting. Hit it. Go for it. Meanwhile, back in Trump toilet land, I mean, why do we have to look at this? Lordy, there are photos of Trump's flush docs. I mean, gross. By the way, Joe, amazing joke this morning. Roto-Rooter, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 documents that are missing. That's beautiful. That's excellent work. Fantastic writing, concise, good choice of actually linking Roto-Rooter. What's the military doing about burn pits? Well, they've made changes in where they can be located related to barracks and living quarters and stuff like that for a while. They've also made advances in the kind of gear you wear around them. This is about the post damage of that and Agent Orange and 9/11 first responders. It's not just burn pits that was covered in the PACT Act. It's about their health care after the fact. New toilet photos back up. I mean, that's, how do you not back up bombshell claims? Somebody get a plunger. All right. This is just gross. But again, what's Maggie Haberman's lot in life except looking into the toilet of Donald Trump for a living? Don't be a quitter. Shove your litter in the shitter. I don't know that that's going to catch on. I hope so. Tennesseans are, let's see, Marsha Blackburn. The Rhodes College alumni who are trying to cancel Justice Coney Barrett do not speak for Tennesseans. It is a shame that Senate Democrats have forced through a socialist agenda that will make life more difficult and expensive for Tennesseans. She just did a run on these things. During a recession with inflation at a 41-year high, Democrats just passed a bill to spend over $700 billion, increase taxes, and decrease energy production. Don't you love how everybody gets to just, like, fondle the elephant however the fuck they want, just with their, in the blind people describing an elephant, they just blindfold themselves and just go, I don't buy this stuff about them having a trunk. It seems like they've got baggage, but the Democrats' reckless tax and spend plan includes nearly $370 billion to fund the Green New Deal. No, it doesn't. Whatever. $64 billion for Obamacare. Jesus Christ! And hundreds of billions of new taxes on American businesses and manufacturers. By the way, all the big businesses that they've been shitting on, like Facebook and Amazon and whatever. Yeah. The spending spree also includes $80 billion to double the number of IRS agents, practically giving every American a personalized tax auditor. Not quite. We should be cutting taxes, not increasing them. It's a shame that. All right. Well, hey, if Trump hadn't lost the House and the Senate for you, and then fucked up so bad he lost his job, you might have more of a say. I know we only have a hair's breadth control, but we do have it on certain issues, not on policy, just on the purse strings. Surprising thing on the contingent before they cast a vote. Apparently, they didn't remember that 14% of Tennesseans have diabetes and might benefit from the cost-effective insulin. Yeah, no kidding. Tennessee has the 5th highest rate of diabetes in the country, and she voted against capping it. Right, not surprising. By the way, notice West Virginia up here. Remember how people gave Manchin shit for saying that the child income tax credit, these folks aren't going to pay it, they're not going to spend it on their kids, they're just going to waste it and blah, blah, blah. Go watch The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia and you'll understand why he says that. And also this number will make a lot more sense, as well as the heart attack and hypertension stuff in West Virginia as well. Not to mention black lung and all the other aspects of industry there that killed people for a long time. Also, none of this is socialism. Not a stitch. It's just regular, good old taxation with representation. Oh, yeah. Have you guys seen it? It's a movie, Spicy Dragon. It gives you a little bit of West Virginia history as well, but goddamn, it's painful. Yeah. Nearly 1 in 3 Tennesseans has medical debt. Exclusive U.S. diabetes deaths top 100,000 for the second straight year. Republicans block cap on insulin. Yeah, I mean, we're not surprising. We're not surprised, rather. Yeah. Tennesseans. Latest updates on the war in Ukraine. Obviously, there's a lot going on right now. The nuclear plant that the Russians were firing on in their area, because here's the issue with the no, they fired. The Russians have control of the nuclear facility, but the people running it are Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians don't have an impetus to bomb the actual place. Also, they want it functioning when they get their country back. The Russians don't. The Russians don't want it functioning if the Ukrainians ever take the country back, and they don't give a shit about the Ukrainians that are in the facility itself. That should inform your opinion, I think, about a lot of these things. This is more, loitering munitions. There's plenty of this footage. Pork on a Ukrainian tank. Yeah, these are the Russians putting out their stuff. These guys, this is crazy. This story happened this morning. The security service of Ukraine discovered an assassination plot to kill the Ukrainian Minister of Defense. And the head of Main Intelligence Directorate of the Ministry of Defense, Kirillio Budanov. And they caught these two guys, and it was they wrapped them up at a gate, and like there was a physical takedown as these guys came in. Oof. He claims to busted up a group of would-be Ukraine. I think this is the footage of it actually happening. Yeah. Yeah, these are the guys they caught. Again, allegedly. I mean, we're never going to see the other side of this, I don't think. Russian weapons recovered in Ukraine contain more than 450 foreign-made components, according to research. Yeah, components they can't get anymore. Hold on, let me open up. I'm going to put this in the regular comms because it's easier to read these things. Pardon me, folks. And then remind me when we get close to 10 o'clock so that I can put on my headphones and get Bob in here. It'll work. By the way, coffee this morning in my Washington, D.C. souvenir cup. I think this is from like my second trip to D.C. is from the shop right across from the White House on the street. It's just, standard, hey, I went to D.C. stuff. I'm not a CIA agent, and I have never been on Air Force One. But of course, if I was, would I tell you? No, whatever. Like the accusations of me being a CIA agent have gone up lately because I'm not giving any quarter to the Russian pricks and their sock puppets. Video of Russian forces showing T-90A tanks firing on Ukrainian defense positions. You notice how the Russian videos always have a lot of cutting. They show an explosion, and then they show some other place, and there's, or just to pick up stuff. Because, like, that doesn't... Look where the targeting is on that one. Like, yeah, okay, yes, a tank is firing, and then there's an explosion. It's not the same fucking thing, dummy. It's like the airdrop stuff that we've seen on on Russian positions from drones, from the where they're getting them to take like consumer drones and dropping they're using farm drones to drop grenades on positions, and they just show the whole thing. When you watch the Ukrainian video, the whole thing plays out. Yet these shells make a very, very minor fraction when the Russians fired at Ukraine since February 2021. Oh, I see. These are the... Look at all these things they threw at us. Oh no, these are the Ukrainians. So shells from Uragan, Tornado S, S-300, Smerch, Grad, Caliber that Russia fires to terrorize Kharkiv and kill Ukrainians. This pile is just a small part of what's collected in Kharkiv. Explanation by Idar Ovcharuk, head of the demining unit. What a fucking job. By the way, you know, the demining squads on Earth doing that stuff everywhere are not, I mean, a lot of times they're dressed as soldiers, but not regarded as such. Lord, keep and protect them in everything that they do. For fuck's sake. Of all, like, if there's even people who are, you know, totally anti-military and hate everything about it, if there's one thing you can celebrate free and clear is demining units. Those guys deserve every ounce of respect you have in your body. This guy seems to be, let's see, video of our PhD students in Colombia focused on Russian defense policy. Is that how you put it? PhD student war studies, senior fellow, previous USMC, contrast, defense policy, okay, gotcha. He's showing their footage. But again, a lot of their footage is cut. It's very strange in that way. I mean, you're obviously going to use two different types of footage a lot of times with a long-range firing shit. But like, if you look at the Ukrainians, even the javelin stuff, you know, you're seeing them fly and hit in the same shot. It just looks less like bullshit. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant issue is really scary. And the fact that they're just like, look, understand, Russia doesn't care if Ukraine functions as a barrier against, you know, aggressors, and they don't need it per se to be functional farmland, and they don't mind sending their own Russian people out to, you know, get oil and gas and minerals out of radioactive ground. So what do they care? Which one's better? Here we go. According to the UK's Minister of Defense assessment, 10 prominent generals have been killed in war and 6 have been fired since Putin's February 24th invasion of Ukraine. That's including the 14 in country. Oh, it says killed in war. They're counting 10. Everybody else says 14, but okay. Yeah, Kenyan story. Video from Ukraine's National Guard of artillery strikes on a Russian ammunition warehouse in Kharkiv. And these assholes again. Transgenders in Vyshvankas are becoming the symbol of modern Ukraine. We must support Trump and let's not be shy about it. The U.S. is facing a second civil war, but we don't want the mass death of Americans. Well, because they're afraid their side will lose. A society with that orientation has no future. And in the respect that I like the conservative values advocated by President Donald Trump, we must support Trump and we shouldn't be shy about him. Of course, he's not a Russian agent. He's an American patriot. He's a patriot of the American nation's best positive traits. He fights against that whole disease with which the collective West is now sick. Of course, he received applause, exactly like Viktor Orban, the Hungarian prime minister, did. They're people with common sense, and common sense consists both of rejecting those LGBT values, recognizing the fact that the world could not exist without Russia. Really? And it won't exist without Russia? Why? I'm honest to God, like, I don't wish doom upon Russia in particular, certainly not the people. But what? Oh, is there bleed from yes? Oh, sorry, I left the green screen on. That's my bad. Yes, please tell us about Donald Trump. No, that's on their set. Hold on, I'll turn it off so it's not too distracting. That's funny. There you go. Sorry. It is funny. If the USA doesn't take decisive measures, let's see. Obviously, Ukraine is a cancerous tumor. It's completely obvious that Ukraine is a cancerous tumor in the center of Europe. Center of Europe. So Russia's part of Europe now. Great. No. And nor do they want to be. I don't know what the fuck. But so much for the, it's because of NATO. It's NATO expansion. Not that the people in Ukraine are cancer and must be irradiated, I suppose.
В центре Европы, который дает метастазы. Мы видим эти безумные шоу, акции трансгендеров, вышиванки, которые становятся символом современной Украины в глазах западных обывателей.
In the eyes of the average Westerner. Yeah, that's most of us think of like Ukraine as the West Hollywood of Europe. By the way, if it is, then that's why Germany's upset.
Общество с такой ориентацией нет будущего. В этом плане мне нравятся те консервативные ценности, за которые, я бы сказал, позитивны. Разумеется, вот те аплодисменты, точно так же, как аплодировали Виктору, и в отрицании вот бывать не может и не будет существовать. Если Соединенные Штаты Америки...
It's like saying the world cannot exist without Atlantis. Apparently we're getting along fine without it to some degree. I guess you can't prove a negative. I don't know what the fuck, besides oil and gas to Europe, Russia contributes to the world, except destabilized security throughout the earth. I mean, China has the same problems, but, at least they were the factory floor of the world for a while.
Не примут решительных мер по изменению своей внешней и внутренней политики. Очевидно, впереди эту страну ждет гражданская война. Вторая гражданская война за ее
you fucking wish.
Историю, которая может привести просто к распаду Соединенных Штатов Америки.
Just hold your breath. Tell you what, just wait it out. Yeah, we're headed towards a civil war. That's why we're going to have an election this year, and if the Republicans take control, they'll try to get shit through that the president won't sign, and then we'll take back the House and the Senate when Biden wins again.
Такого сценария мы не желаем массовой гибели американцев.
We don't want such a scenario. No, we don't want the mass death of Americans. Just the ones in the north.
Американских политиков в виде Трампа, в виде других здоровых европейских.
Oh, so like a gelatinous mass that looks like butter sprayed with basketball dye.
Сил консервативных прежде всего.
Dude, get off your phone. He's giving a speech about the end of the world in the form of healthy European forces first and foremost conservative.
За нормализацию отношений Запада с Россией.
Who are advocating for the normalization of the West's relations with Russia. Are you? The normalization, which, and by the way, by normalization, he means no gay people. Jesus Christ. A rejection of the crazy politics of the current elites in the EU and Washington. And by the way, I'm coming up with this all spontaneously off this note card. Don't forget. Yeah, we're not losing in November. Agreed. No. No, the Republicans, like they always do, got out over their skis. Oh, I'm sorry. Was the audio playing on that? Apologize. It should have been. I turned the audio. That's what happens when I don't have my headphones in. I'm sorry, guys. I was just reading what he said in English. Hopefully you could see it. I don't know. Does this translate? Translate the tweet. Okay. Thanks. That's what it looks like it says. Gross and disturbing. Look at this dude right here. This person. Dude, when you have these guys advocating for you, that's enough for me to know you can't be good for America. I don't agree with the whole LGBT shots. Shots how we have? LGBT shots how we have? I don't know what that. And I lean conservative, but I for sure will not vote for Trump. I would vote for DeSantis. I'm ready for the hate. Whatever. For voting for him or whatever. The irony, but whatever. What a bunch of douchebags. again, yeah, I don't understand that part of it at all. Who the fuck thinks we couldn't get by without the existence of, like, the Russian people, the human beings that are there, if they lived somewhere else and spoke another language and they were suddenly evacuated from the earth somehow, I think we would miss them as beings. But the modern Russian culture of kleptocracy and violence, yeah, I pass. If I wanted this shit in the world or felt it was necessary, I would have voted for Bush and Cheney. Fuck out of here. It's so weird. American actor Jessica Chastain meets Ukrainian President Zelensky. Wow, you're even more pale than we are. Sorry. She's amazingly, she's not Steve Martin pale, but she's close. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. They accused the Ukrainians of firing on a facility that, if it blows up, irradiates a huge chunk of Ukrainian territory and kills all the Ukrainians that are working there with a gun to their head, by the way. I mean, let's understand this. The Russians have set charges in this place so that if street fighting breaks out to clear the place of Russians as they push everybody out, they'll attempt to blow up those charges. That's the scariest thing about this circumstance. The Russians will detonate this fucking place if they're losing it, is the idea. The latest Russian weapons used in the invasion of Ukraine are produced using Western electronics, and some of the components are still coming in despite the sanctions, according to experts who say, of course they fucking are. They're getting them from other places. They exist out in the world. Ultra gigabit Ethernet transceiver, the AD converter, an 18 megabit parallel static RAM chip. Yeah, the world is flush with fucking RAM. They're getting it from China, dummy. It's made by, it's designed by the United States and South Korea and in some cases Taiwan. But it's, a lot of it was, the cheaper stuff, these things like that stuff, that's made in Chinese factories. Of course, there's piles of that shit lying around. Look how old this shit is. The Zarya guidance computer. I don't know where they're getting new ones of these. Fuck's sake. Look, Taiwan. Where do you think they got it from? It's a Texas Instruments chip that was printed in Taiwan. China bought a bunch of them. They don't have anywhere to put them, so they're handing them over to Russia. They did years ago. Fucking whatever. Yeah, stuff from the 80s. This should just show an Atari. Yeah, they're basically they're talking about the food insecurity in South Africa and South Africa. That's one of the problems they've got down there. They don't have enough food for the people. The SBU's statement. Here's, they say Russia's GRU military intel offered $100,000 to $150,000 for the killings. First, the men were to kill a Ukrainian soldier for $5,000 as a test. Then they came from LNR, crossing the Ukraine-controlled territory from Belarus. There's just mercenaries from the Luhansk and Donetsk independent separatist regions. Man. Yeah, after Russia invaded Ukraine, the West announced tough new sanctions. Tech companies said they had halted all exports. Yet supplies of Western computer parts continue to join investigation. Of course they did, stupid. They're sitting around. Just no new ones. They're not going to get any updates. They're not going to get... this is so... Thank you for the heads up, Carly. 10 minutes to Bob Cesca joining us. It's going to be very exciting. The head of occupation authorities in parts of Zaporizhia region, I guess parts of, signed a decree on a referendum to join Russia. Yeah, they're going to have a gun to your head vote. Yeah, there you go. Chinese exports to Russia are back near levels seen before the Kremlin's invasion of Ukraine. They're just sending them the shit they're not using. There's factories full of Alibaba stuff that was never shipped. U.S. needs to provide more HIMARS, powerful HIMARS. Yeah, hey, there's Venman. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Seriously. Like, I understand being against war in general and wanting it to stop, but the idea that there's a, you know, I would chalk it up with one of Roger Waters' brain farts. I think I can almost tell what videos he's been watching by what he's talking about. Well, this just happened. Ukraine says it hit Russian troop bases, key bridges, and overnight strikes. Well, let's see. Let's jump in here. Oh, you got to pay for it. I'm going to end up having to get a Reuters subscription just for you guys, aren't I? Don't forget to like and subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. That helps us do these kind of things. And also Venmo, and there's, of course, patreon.com/HalSparks. And if you haven't subscribed on Twitch in a while, it's a good time to do it. Look how black and how little purple. Just saying, no pressure. And of course, you just giving a thumbs up and leaving a comment, that apparently blesses us with the algorithm, as I've heard. With this, box CAT tourniquets has arrived from the Netherlands in Lviv. That's when you're waiting for tourniquets to come. Oof. Russia launched Kinzhal Air launched ballistic missiles at the facility in the Vidnatsia region. Standing at a podium that reads, "We are one people," the collaborationist head of Ukraine's occupied Zaporizhzhia region announces these order preparations for a referendum on joining Russia formally. The crowd endorses the idea unanimously, a sign of the vote to come. Yeah. Nobody buys it, dude. Especially when you've abducted large swaths of people. And let's say the Russians have taken a family member of yours to Russia, and now they're having a vote out in the open about whether or not that territory should join Russia or not. Do you think that would have some impact on the legitimacy of the vote? Teams around in 20,000 buy medical supplies, comms equipment, video shot dozens of kilometers from the front lines. Cool. Russia-Ukraine wars weekly recap looking ahead. Okay, this is basically the same thing that we're ultimately seeing. Let's see. First cargo ship to reach its final destination after departing from Ukraine under a deal between Moscow and Kiev docked in Turkey today. Look how long that took to get to Turkey. That's just right across the water. That's not even like to Africa. Again, the oil and gas that comes out of the Black Sea ports that go to China take 36 days to get there. Each boat, 36 days. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to put my headphones on, and where are they? Where'd they go? They're in here, this business. Thank you. So that when he pops in, I will transfer over. Hopefully he'll come up. I don't even have to call him. He's gonna pop in. Fingers crossed it actually works. Wish me luck, people. Let's see. Yeah, it's a good idea. One of the things I might do, if I turn this on, got to enable my camera. There we go. And make sure my mic is the proper one. And lovely. Close. I almost forgot to do that part. It's good that I didn't. And then there's one other thing I have to do for it to work, which is that's turned off. We're all good. Okay. Fingers crossed this actually works. Very exciting. So it may be a bit of fumfering once I start, but hopefully not. We'll continue what we're talking about until Bob logs in, and we should be good. Russian authorities have blocked or deleted some 138,000 websites since Moscow launched its invasion of neighboring Ukraine. Dear God, it's almost like what's happening to the CPAC folks who've gotten kicked off of Twitter for fomenting violence and still have 10 other sites they can talk on. Basically, America is Russia right now. You guys should be so lucky. How will a drum roll help? I think so. I'm pretty sure. Let's see if I can do this and do that, like this and like that and like this, y'all. And of course, Trump lost his wig over the course of the weekend. If anybody spots it, let me know. Russian occupiers claim to have mined Zaporizhzhia nuclear. There you go. That's what I said. Didn't I just say that? Didn't I? What'd I tell you? What did I tell you? What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Can I just say for the record? Russians threaten to blow up Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, says Energy Atom. Good stuff. Very exciting. Russian occupiers claim to have mined the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and threatened to blow up the facility, according to Energoatom. The plant's operator. I'm choked to death trying to say that name. The Energo. Oh, I think we have a Bob Cesca arriving just in time. I'm very excited. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may, he'll pop right in. 3, 2, 1. No, he's not there. Hold on. I've got to pop him in. Give me 1 second. It's going to take a second. This is my first time getting to throw somebody in here. So give me 1 second and I will do this. And then I will take a link. Bob, I'm hoping you can hear me and you will be able to hear everything in a second. Copy a solo link. There we go. And then I will put this in here. Guest 1. Link it in here. One of these days, I'll have somebody behind the scenes who will be able to do all this for me. But in the meantime, properties. There we go. There we go. Paste. Close. Excellent. And then hopefully that will, there we go. Now it's winking up there, and give me 1 second and I'll send him an image and we'll be up in a second. Done. There he goes. And that, hold on. It'll pop you right in and then we'll see you. Look at that.
There we go.
It almost hey, what's happening, Bob? Welcome.
There we are, finally. Hey, can you hear the weed whackers outside my apartment?
I cannot.
Malcolm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good, because I was about to say Malcolm Gladwell can suck it about those of us who work from home. Because the one thing I know we all have to contend with this when we work at home. The maintenance guys come by with the weed whackers and the leaf blowers just as I'm ready to start a goddamn show.
Oh, totally. I have a I'm one of the reasons why I moved my guest setup into my normal streaming setup, which is a real pain in the ass, as everyone has just witnessed doing this, when you do it by yourself, especially when you do it during a live stream. Setting up podcasts, these people who post these shows, these people don't have any problems. But if you do it live, it's a pain in the butt. So I usually use like Ecamm, which is on the other system, which is just my little desktop that I do my artwork on in the other room and some music. But there's a huge vent fan for the house, the air conditioning, that turns on all the time. And I live in Vegas where it's 100 and 1,000 degrees,
Yeah.
So there are some days where it's just like, what? Okay, it stops. I'm like, now I can, what? Like it's never giving up. I feel like the Martian. So
yes, I can hear this louder than anything else in the world. It's like the loudest sound, and it's filling my entire office. And I'm glad you can't hear it, because
it sounds great.
It would be really distracting.
We're all very impressed with your audio, I can tell you. By the way, welcome everybody. He's got an echo. Beg your pardon. Let me fix that part. How do I? Let's see. What do we do? I don't think I do it this way. Let me do here. Oh, I know what I have to do. I turn this part off. There you go. That should do it. Sorry about the echo, guys. That's another bug in the matrix. That somehow
makes me feel so much better that you're having these problems, Hal, because I have them every goddamn show. It's
I
like
know.
last week. I didn't touch a thing. I have a separate laptop where I get my send from whoever my guest is.
Right.
I had Carlos Ellis Rocky on my show last Wednesday. Touched nothing.
Yes.
And it took us like 20 minutes to get the audio worked out. And it turned out it was something just went haywire, blew a gasket on my computer.
Right.
Not allowing his audio. So it was this sweaty kind of scramble.
Oh my God. Like, I dealt with these on my radio show for years because it was always a new technology because nothing ever worked. Yes, I fixed it. Thank you for noticing, chat room, by the way. Also follow Bob Cesca _go while we're at it, just to start with. And Bob, my morning show, it just kind of sprung from the afternoon show, which is, and when I first started doing around the Trump stuff, I was like, when he stopped regularly doing rallies after January 6th for a short time, I was like, well, that's maybe, I'll transition the show into something else. And then there has just been a never ending avalanche of right-wing garbage since then. It's almost like he was the one giant cork, and now they're trying to fix it with 1,000 smaller, dumber ones. So it's like you've got him as the big megaphone, and without him, doing it regularly enough for them, they have to fill the gap with Boebert and Gohmert and MTG and Matt Gaetz and Bannon and Stone and and now Alex Jones, which we'll talk a bit about that, whatever, but. Because you had Carlos on the other day, I think this has obviously been something that's come up recently, and we'll probably get both of us a little bit of troll action from it, as it seems to do all the time.
Oh,
but
good.
The TYT Jimmy Dore crowd with this, if we can't have everything, nobody gets anything shit. Like, you can track it. This bill just got, signed in the Senate, just got passed in the Senate. And already it's the worst thing that's ever happened.
Yeah. In fact, they're going farther than that. They're basically saying that this bill is a gigantic giveaway to big oil. Right. It's astounding. Yeah. And you know what? I need to make it a habit of not looking at Ryan Knight's Twitter feed anymore because he's one of these guys, man. Yeah. And I started scrolling through that. I just, it's amazing how counterfactual they are, and goes to show that, you know what? There are red hats on our side as well. Not as many, not nearly as many. I'm not making an equivalence here whatsoever, but we've got our fair share.
Well, we used to have a lot more, but it died a horrible death because I think in many ways it lost its primary leader, not just because Bernie, who always, for the record, had a 30% electability rating nationwide. That was always, even if he won the Republican primary or the Democratic primary, Republicans, whoever they ran, would automatically gain an extra 15 points against him that would make him lose. It doesn't matter. And the popularity of his ideas as a senator is one thing, and people can talk about those things, but the idea that he would ever win the national election was like Ron Paul. It's the same paint everybody was huffing on both those sides. But they turned on him as soon as Bernie didn't make it and started trying to get as much of his stuff through as he possibly could by working with Biden and others and stuff. They turned on him so viciously that I think eradicated the red hat movement, the Bernie bro movement, which was to some degree the equivalent on the left in that regard, kind of evaporated into angry little quarters that, and the way Trump still maintains his king status.
Right. It was weird too, because I saw a couple of them make this 180 degree U-turn, like overnight. Like Ryan Knight, for example, was all into Bernie Sanders, and then he was into Elizabeth Warren, and that was fine. And then as soon as Elizabeth Warren lost in New Hampshire, it was like about face, fuck Elizabeth Warren, fuck Bernie Sanders.
Remember the snake emojis?
Like
where it was like the war of the rose emojis with the snake emojis. It was like one of the most childish political movements I've seen since the Magoo hat situation. I always say too that when you see that happen, when you see someone make that kind of transformation that quickly, there's something going on. They're not changing their entire worldview and their core values overnight. That just doesn't happen. You see it. In fact,
you see it more genuinely with the never Trumpers, who are taking years and years and years to kind of slowly morph into the realm of normals. You know what I mean?
Well,
but
yeah,
with
their language, their language is how you tell, because they're so trying to slip that bag of sand as they take the golden idol off, like delicately, because they know there are darts coming from both sides. Whereas these guys are like, fuck it, I never really gave a shit anyways, fuck that guy. And with Sanders, like I've had my issues with Bernie's approach over the years. I've had his issue with his staff and how they handle things, his messaging and all this kind of stuff, because I want some of what he's going for to get a real, an open debate and discussion, and take the best that's from it and use it. And I want it to happen. But his people have been such assholes at times where you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, it's not, you're killing your own thing. But the fact that they would just flip like a switch on him is one of the weirdest parts of it. And I have a hard time taking them like seriously anyways, but it's even weirder to go like, who trusts that kind of a person anymore? Like, say what you will about the Lincoln Project, and I would never sign on to any bill any one of them would present on their own. You know what I mean? Sight unseen. Where they're just like, oh, we'll create a bill for taxes or something like that. When they come on board, like, yeah, we should protect our democracy. We're like, that's a Democrat crafted bill that they're like, look, a bridge. But when they would come up with their own shit, you're just like, nah, thank you, pass. But right.
Well, I was going to say the difference is that with, like, say, for example, if you follow Joe Walsh on Twitter, his transformation from being this far right screecher into being someone who is sounding more and more reasonable every day. You can kind of track it on his Twitter feed, where one day he's like, you know what? I voted for Joe Biden, but I'm still a conservative and I still have conservative values. Then the next day he's like, well, some of my values are a little bit woke. So I'm conservative, but I'm adding this layer, this patina of wokeness on top of that. And then before you know it, he's going to be like, fuck the guns. And I'm anti-choice now.
Well,
and
there's a couple of those guys. Like, there's a guy on a line called The Amazing Atheist. I don't know if you ever saw him, but he used to be kind of soundly right-wing and stuff. And he's just made a big flip-flop. There was also, I think, Shoe on Head. She and her boyfriend famously were, very, like, anti-BLM. They made their bones as anti-BLM in the very early days of sort of conservative YouTube and that kind of stuff. And they've totally, she went full-on, Bernie lady during parts of it as a sales point. And now neither one of them can kind of find, like, she can't really find her footing if it exists anymore. And what they won't admit is you're effectively a functioning centrist who likes points on both sides that you think should get a conversation. They should at least be tried on the merits, right? But holy shit. Right.
Yeah. And I kind of give them wiggle room only because I think everyone, certainly on social media, wants to be able to save face. They want to be able to say, well, you know what? I was kind of wrong about all that crap 10 years ago,
Right.
But at the same time, I don't want to look like an asshole. I don't want people to gang up on me because I'm admitting I'm wrong. So they're trying to save face. They're trying to make it. They're trying to do this slow, gradual transformation so that they can still hold their heads high without, rending their garments and saying, oh my God, can you please forgive me? Can you please forgive me? Right. That's not going to happen. But so you're watching it slowly happen. Although when someone transforms overnight, that is proof positive that what happened that morning is probably a paycheck arrived or a contract to be signed.
Or a paycheck disappeared. Which when RT went off the air and a lot of that money like vacuum sucked out of portions of the Republican side and of course the hyper left faux aggressive people who were sort of carrying Russia's water for them for a while because like Lee Camp is a great example. Lee Camp, I've had my differences over the past, but ultimately I feel like he means well and he can be a misguided asshole where he throws the baby out with the bathwater, but at least he means well. I don't know that Jimmy Dore means well. Whereas Lee Camp was on RT And so Vladimir Putin is paying his rent in New York City. You have thrown your fucking lot in with someone when you're at that extent. Like, again, so it kind of balances out their kind of grotesqueness, if you really think about it, because Jimmy pays for, other than, we'll talk about Russian super chats in a minute and money laundering in the super chat and subscription world, which is hilarious. But like, he does it on the allegedly for free. He's just ideologically an asshole about it. Whereas Lee Camp is like got some room to actually be honest about it, and yet at the same time has totally sold himself over to it. And what happened when RT disappeared? Well, RT wasn't taken off the air because the United States censored it. They just knew that they had people like him and Hedges and other people who, at the very least, were going to have to say, I don't support the Russians invading Ukraine, and that sentence alone was verboten. So they couldn't, they had to take the whole fucking thing off the air because they couldn't even allow for that wiggle room on the entire fucking network. I mean, if you think one person holding up a sign, on Russian television against the war, it was a big splash over there. Imagine what RT America would look like after a fucking week of the Russian war itself. They took it down because it had served its purpose and the money went elsewhere. And therefore, that's when those light switches flip. Suddenly Ukraine is evil, right? Nazis everywhere.
And then just so we're not exclusively picking on the, whatever you call them, the Jimmy Dores, the dirtbag left or whatever their nickname. Yeah, exactly right. There's a phenomenon that I've talked about quite a bit, which is that coming up through radio, I gradually began to see former like morning zoo guys on FM radio make this transformation into AM, because slowly throughout the middle 90s, certainly after the Janet Jackson thing happened at the Super Bowl, there was this backlash and all of these syndicated sort of shock jock shows started to become less and less popular and more condemned by the establishment and so on. So a lot of these morning guys started to transform into AM talk radio conservatives.
Right.
Glenn Beck is like, the prime example of that. Look up Glenn Beck. Not you, I'm sure you've seen it now, but Glenn Beck there's a whole series of TV commercials that he did when he was like on the morning zoo with chimps and free cash giveaways and donkey basketball. So he was one of those guys, and that's not isolated. There are many other guys. There was a guy I worked at B104 in Allentown. His name is Ken Matthews. He was the morning zoo guy on that radio station, and now he's like a conservative pro-Trump podcaster. It's a career move. Candace Owens admitted on Joe Rogan's show that one day she was a liberal, next day she woke up and said, I'm a conservative. Magical, isn't that? Whoops, I'm a conservative.
Right.
And so that indicated to me that it was just a career move, that it was, there's more money on this side, so let's go over there and exploit that.
We also know that, like Stephanie Miller's not on the air in Los Angeles, and not because her show wasn't functional or profitable or doing very well in the market. It absolutely was. But Bain Capital made a point to buy up these local AM radio stations and essentially turn them conservative, intentionally lose money in a market as a PR experiment, essentially to go, this is just propaganda. We are just going to buy these stations and turn them conservative, and if they lose money, we'll make it back in tax breaks. And that's effectively what they've done. And the buying of the morning zoo guys, now I think some of that seed comes from the fact that nobody was going to be Howard Stern. Howard Stern was especially late 80s, early 90s. Nobody was going to be able to unseat him. And a lot of the guys who were trying or were jockeying to be the next one once he moves on, when he moved to Sirius XM, it's like they thought, oh, now's my shot. And it never happened because it actually turned into its own thing. And now all of his audience did follow him. It was a good business move. But those guys all were cutting their bones on effectively being free speech warriors. And it's okay to be offensive. And, that was part of the thing, was I'm trying to upset people because that's where Stern really made his bones. And so, I think there's a natural transition from that group to conservative radio. That's the area where you could lure them in because, the anti-political correctness has been a running theme for a long time. Now, the problem is that, most of what they complain about, we're not talking about political correctness. We're talking about abject bigotry or sexism or anti-gay language. That's the problem. It's the difference is these guys weren't funny enough to know the difference. They just thought we could just say shocking stuff, and that if people can't handle it, they don't get the joke. Like, dude, there's no joke there. I know, I write them. I feel like that was a natural conservative lead-in. That seemed primed for that kind of thing, and that's where some of us, in the on the left side of things, I think have a responsibility to push back on the. It's not political correctness; it's the abject bigotry we have a problem with, not just you being a sloppy jokester. And but that's where they got them from. That's where they all came from. Glenn Beck. I mean, they all had a mentally challenged internist that they would send on fucking, errands to act like an asshole in front of people, and like just gross shit like that. They're all the same. I mean, any touring stand-up knows these people, right? So I think the one thing I want to talk to you about too is your thoughts about where we were going into the midterms maybe 3 months ago and where we are now.
Oh, yeah. I got to tell you, my outlook in all of this has changed significantly in that period of time. I was feeling pretty disillusioned, Hal, going into the beginning of the summer, thinking that the American people just generally lacked the will to do the right thing anymore. I was feeling very disillusioned, certainly after the reaction to COVID, which, let's face it, 99% of that was Donald Trump failing to do the right thing when he had a chance.
To the baseline, right?
Yes, and because the president sets the tone for the country, the rest of the country kind of fell in line behind him and said, fuck it, we don't need to do anything. We don't need to sacrifice to stop this pandemic. We're just going to live with it, done with COVID. So I kind of, and I think mistakenly, extrapolated that into things like, pushing back against the climate crisis.
Right.
Certainly, when it came to analyzing the fate of the Democrats for the midterms, I think a lot of people were overinflating the importance of gas prices and inflation in their decision-making process for this coming up election, which we saw in the polls, which we saw bearing out certainly in the cable news media. And then things started to turn around. Obviously, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen just this avalanche of incredibly good news.
Yeah.
And that has turned me around. And I have to admit, Hal, your show has gone a long way toward changing my view from being a little bit more pessimistic to being a lot more optimistic.
I'm glad.
And that is, I think, infectious. I think what you were doing, not only from an information point of view, but from an attitudinal point of view, is extraordinarily important. And I think everyone who watches this is better off for it.
Oh, thanks.
Especially given all of the nightmarish things that we soak ourselves in every day.
And considering the alternative, because again, I've always said my whole life, there's a thin line between realism and pessimism, and most people you get street cred for complaining, whereas happiness and contentment, joy, all those kind of things seem superfluous emotions, even though they are the target emotions we should have for our fellow human beings all of the time. And I know as a comedian, I lean that way as as my raison d'etre in life. But when it comes to people like just trying to buck up their bona fides, especially in the news world, by being, skeptical and pessimistic first, without basing that skepticism and pessimism on the actual reality, or in their oddly sort of utopian comparisons to realistic, available options, as if, the best example I would give is that in the most recent kind of financial newspapers like Market Watch and all these kind of things, and Bloomberg and yada yada, they will have all these things that there's an example of the economy slowing down because the number of job openings is decreasing by 50%. There's been 100% too many job openings. There are not enough human workers in the country for the number of job openings that were happening because our economy flooded back so fast and we service the rest of the world. So cutting 200% job openings for 100% of the people available to 150% of the available job force is not a contraction in the job market. That's ridiculous. It's like I said, it's like saying I have a job opening for 5 angels, and and therefore the job market on angels is incredible. It's like they're not there to be hired in the first fucking place, and they don't work for money. It doesn't work that way. So this idea that you can take contractions based on utopian concepts is kind of the same thing if you're looking at the Chinese economy. The idea that China's economy was here, when we're finding out it's actually here, there are a lot of moderating voices trying to make it look normal by elevating it to the utopian standard that they had it at. And it's a shitstorm. It's fucking horrible over there right now. The same thing with Russia. And I think if Americans knew how the rest of the world is doing compared to how well we're doing, they would have a more realistic view of how of what's of the reality in life, and they would protect what they have a little bit better, and they would be a little more respectful of the privilege that we have as Americans while we get at the process of helping those Americans that aren't quite there yet.
Yeah, and I think what the Republicans have been really effective at doing, certainly in recent history, certainly in the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, is when they begin to eat away at the news media, and I'm not just talking about cable news, I'm talking about the print press and all points in between, is that once you do that, you can feed people any amount of bullshit and they'll just accept it. And that's certainly, we see that at Trump rallies and at CPAC this past weekend, where just utter nonsense, ridiculous filth is being pumped into their throats like baby birds, just barfing it down their gullets.
Do you think it's really information, or is it I don't know, like endorphin button pushing?
Yeah, there's a lot of that too.
You know what I mean?
That's
like,
for
it's
sure.
not that they're giving them, it's not even that they're saying what they want to hear. It's just that they've got 15 or so trigger phrases or words, and they can just poke it, and people go, oh, I love it when he said, I love it when I hear that. I love it whether it's true or not, whether they know it's true or not. They want it to be true, I suppose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, what happens is there's less of a motivation to go and look up what they're hearing, to say, hey, you know what? That sounds a little bit weird coming from Donald Trump about the windmills and the cancer.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go check that out, only to find out that, oh, yeah, that's right. Factcheck.org says that's nonsense. They're not going to do that because they've been told that factcheck.org is owned by the radical left Dems and all the rest of it.
Right.
So there's, in that sense, the Trump Republicans have an advantage.
Also, keep in mind, these are people who think the Bible should be taken literally, but when Trump says stupid shit, he's just joking around. Take it with a grain of salt. It's allegory. It doesn't really cause cancer. It's like it's a cancer, kind of like feminism is a cancer, like Milo Yiannopoulos said. It's all like it's all a big mishmash of they're awful, we're good. Just shut the fuck up about the details. You're bothering me. You're throwing a monkey wrench into my joy fest, into my endorphin rush. Did you watch much of the CPAC stuff this weekend?
Yeah, I saw way too much of it, Hal.
Yeah. Oh.
I was watching for example, the Donald Trump press conferences every night during COVID, during the initial months of COVID, right? And a lot of those times were via your show. And most of what I see now of what happens at CPAC is through your show.
Thank you. Sorry, but I feel guilty now. But that's how you should do it. You know what I mean? It's not even a spoonful of sugar. It's not even a spoonful of sugar. It's I feel like I'm helping people avoid like I'm Indiana Jones walking people through to keep our
that's right, through the booby traps.
Yeah, to keep our booby traps. Like that's all right, putting my hand in front of the light and pulling it back and like, see, this is how they get you. Adios, Pinto.
Yeah. Well, and my question is this like the 182nd CPAC this month or something like
Jesus
that? Are
Christ.
they doing one of these every 2 weeks or what is this?
Yes, and I'll tell you why, and why this is good news. Because they're having a hell of a time fundraising. They used to be able to do this once a fucking year, or in an election year maybe twice. They do they do them in like a quarter of the country. They do a Northeast one, a Southwest one, blah, blah, blah. And that's all they needed. But Trump has been guzzling all of their fucking money and burning it on Mar-a-Lago and the bills at Bedminster.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think he could keep this fucking place afloat? And if that was true, he would have had the live golf tournament there. He'd had, if the PGA hadn't left, these places would pay their own fucking bills, but they don't. Who the fuck wants to go to Bedminster now, which is, oh yeah, that's the Saudi place. Like, everybody's dodging it now. So to keep the lights on, he has to tour around with this fucking Save America garbage, and they have to put it on the stage if he's going to be on there. So it either has to, at CPAC, they put it on the screens. It said, Fire Pelosi, Save America, and then they passed out the Save America donate things at CPAC, which everybody blew off because A, they're all giving to it already and probably recurring and don't even know it. But they're all fundraisers for him. So the rest of the thing is to raise money for these fucking candidates who then have to pay him $50 to $100K to come to their 3,000 person fucking gathering in dipshit Montana to win a seat they should already have.
Yeah.
Val Demings is in a fucking neck and neck with Marco Rubio right now. That wasn't supposed to happen.
No,
she's gonna beat him. She's gonna
Yeah.
beat him in Florida. These fucking people. Oh.
Yeah, things have changed so significantly. It's like the all the forecasters, the Cook Political Report and at 538, they're just scrambling to change their forecasts at this point because everything is changing so radically. And I almost, you know what? It's weird. I almost hesitate to say that because
well, you don't want people
always
to go easy. You want
perpetually concerned. Yeah.
Right. Well, here's the thing. There's demoralizing, voting turn, and then there's like three groups of voters you have to address in these circumstances. These are if I don't get anything, nobody gets everything, so I got to placate these assholes or they're not going to show up to vote, which is a shrinking group of people. I'm sorry to tell those folks, it's why they're getting angrier, but they're smaller and smaller, just like the CPAC maggots. It's a shrinking group of people. They're louder, but they're thinner in that regard. They're squealing because their tail's caught in the door, not because they have something to say. And then there's the group of what would be considered right-wing or centrist independents who can be talked into being Obama voters and the like, who want to be on the winning team. They will usually vote for who the crowd is going with in a big way. And they'll think, all right, obviously these people have done the research and there's enough of them. The reason the tide is with this person is not because their value that I've discovered, but because a bunch of other people have discovered value in them. So I'm going to go with the winning team. And so those folks are actually a much larger number than people think. And that's where Trump actually gained a bunch in 2016. Because there seemed to be this wind backing where like, oh my God, this is sort of moving in a direction because he was in a deficit and he moved through the Republicans. That was enough to bring them on board to vote for him. And in 2020, they pissed off because it was clear that his polling number in August was taking a shit. They were gone. So those folks are waiting to see who's the trend is toward if they vote at all. And because of, interestingly enough, the Roe v. Wade thing, there's more of them invested in this voting cycle than before. And they're tending to lean towards Democrats again, like I always said they would. Because, for fuck's sake, 2014, oil was at $112 a barrel. Gas was approaching $5 in 2014 dollars. Which is different than now. And it was at $40 a barrel 9 months later. For fuck's sake, we don't need all the oil that's in the world right now. There's too much of it. That's why they throttle it all the fucking time. The Saudis, I don't even know if people know, but the Saudis tanked the price of oil by just releasing what they had available because they were trying to stop the shale oil revolution that was going on in the United States. They figured if they could keep the money out of the hands of the oil and gas companies in those areas by just crashing the price of oil, they could weather it because they got $1 trillion in the stock market they could just fucking sit on for a while. And it's a royal family. Don't give a rat fuck about their people. They can just wait it out. It's a little fiefdom, right? But it turned out not to be the case, and they fucked themselves into a cocked hat, and it collapsed. Like, we could be, it's very conceivable, we could be at $60 a barrel by election day. Because, and holy fuck, can you imagine what that means? Oh, and steady at that. Like,
It's one of those things, Hal, that is invariably cyclical. We've seen this happen. It almost happens every summer where gas prices go up because people are traveling more. There's certainly different factors now contributing to this particular cycle, but it was always going to come back down. I think the people who were wanting it to stay higher and higher and higher were either people who wanted the political advantage from that, or they were just goldfish with 20-minute memories or innies from the miniseries Severance, you know what I mean? Where they can only remember what they're experiencing at that moment. So gas prices are high, inflation's a little higher than it should be, and it's always going to be like that.
Right.
5 years from now, we're still going to be seeing these. No, it's going to dissipate. It's going to level off. We're going to be fine.
Right.
Just wait it out and everything will be cool.
Especially compared to where other countries are. Like, have a little fucking respect for what the earth has been through. That, you know, I said this yesterday, but I've been watching a bunch of the business news cycle things because I was so right and they were so wrong, and I'm very happy to see them. I've been watching more of that shit as people have been like, I don't know, I think there might be deflationary pressure this fall. I'm like, you fucking ain't right, there will be, because this is all fake. It's all caused by COVID, and they've all been treating COVID like it was a blip, or, you know, it's like materially in the world, it was enormous. The whole fucking planet shut down, and it hastened the end of the Russian and Chinese economies where they were already in trouble. Everybody who was on the brink, who didn't have some sort of support, was fucked by the COVID system. Basically, look at all the small businesses that were paycheck to paycheck and rolling stuff through that we had in the United States that went away. That was the monetary system that the Russian and Chinese economies were on. And they were already in trouble 10 years from now. That just sucked it 6 years closer. They're incredibly in danger right now. I don't even know, like, people should spend some time looking at old Chinese ghost city videos and then look at the modern stories about real estate in China right now. It's 30% of their economy. Credit default swaps in this country were like 8% of the money that was transferring through the U.S. economy. This is 30% in China, and they're isolated. And we are reshoring factories into the United States faster than ever in history. And, like, if people think they're just going to ride bad talking points into an election, they're fucked. Because they're not going to stay.
Well, what they run into is actual experience. They run into people actually putting gas in their car and seeing what the price of gas is on a weekly basis, if not more often. They see what the prices are in the grocery store and so on, and then they hear this cognitive dissonance happens between what they're hearing from Trump and the Republicans versus what they're actually experiencing. And I think most people vote on their own experience
totally
more than anything else.
I was talking to Philip Ittner, who's our regular, who's been in Ukraine and all that stuff, about Russian propaganda. And the trick that Russian propagandists learned early on was, you can't, if the U.S. is dropping a flyer that says freedom looks like this, and you can enjoy this and this and this and this and this, and you don't have to suffer this, and you shouldn't have, like, a list of things why it's better to have a democratic system, and they would go, no, it's not. Flyers wouldn't work because people were like, well, I don't know, this stuff sounds pretty fucking sweet. And so what they would do is they would copy the exact same thing, and then they would replace a couple of the lines with absolute bullshit that they know the Russian people would see as, well, that's not true. We did have a holiday this year. That's not true. Bread isn't $90. Like, those kind of things, minor differences, but they're like, I think maybe they're lying about the rest of it is the problem. Well, the Republicans are doing that accidentally to themselves by still doing fucking talking points about baby formula and gas prices, which were momentary crises that happen to every president, every country, and all you're doing is pointing out how fucking well they handled it, that it's being handled. Oh God.
Maybe, you know what, maybe this makes me think of the topic, the ongoing topic that makes Democrats rend their garments, and it's the topic of messaging. And it's along the lines of what you were just saying. The Republican message, we got to bear this in mind. I don't think anyone, well, not a whole lot of people spend a lot of time on the RNC Twitter feed or
right.
I mean, people who don't watch your show aren't spending a lot of time seeing what Republicans are saying. They're kind of filtered from that. If they did, they would realize that the Republican messaging is far worse than the Democratic messaging.
I mean, ridiculous.
I cannot explain what this business is about these ongoing tweets about the border, where every Republican from Ronna McDaniel on down are tweeting these things. Oh my God, a record amount of fentanyl was seized at the border.
Right.
Why is Joe Biden's border policy such a disaster?
Why is he
what the hell is what is that supposed to be?
We're catching, we caught 1 million people from 144 slash 141 slash 146 countries coming across the border. Yes, we caught them. Yeah, the fucking Biden administration. Okay, so there were sections of the wall that the Biden administration is finishing that were material physical gates. And the reason Trump hadn't finished them is because they were just building barrier. They knew that, like, for cattle and other shit like that, you would have to have these, like, areas where there's water or where the land is funky. They were just like, fuck it. Don't build the tough part. It's expensive. So just build more walls. So these huge fucking gaps that they ended up bottlenecking people through, that's where we've been catching them. So the Biden administration went, oh, let's just fill in these 4 and we'll bottleneck people through these 2 areas. And then that's how we'll catch people. And they won't be able to drive a truck through these things, which is how the truck thing happened. And they're handling it. They're being fucking adults about the thing, but that's why I show the whole Trump speeches, because when you see just a piece of it where he says something, outlandish or vicious or fucking just normal, him being an asshole, there's a weird psychological assumption, maybe it's low self-esteem on Democrat side, that the rest of the speech must have been coherent, that it must have been good or functional or somehow normal. And this was the crazy part. The whole fucking thing is a wreck.
It really is.
It really is. And
they just and we need to stop being jealous of the Republicans and how they communicate to their people.
Right.
I mean, certainly what happens on AM Talk Radio and Fox News Channel resonates, but that's not the party establishment necessarily. That's not the RNC. And I think sometimes as Democrats, we look to the DNC to be something that it's not intended to be. The DNC is there to raise money and win elections. It's not there to tell us things that'll make our socks go up and down. And to a certain extent, we're responsible for that. We're kind of the people in the liberal media. Yeah, exactly. People in the trenches. That's what we do. When we see great news, the idea is, because of social media, because of that platform, we can make that great news resonate. If we just press retweet or we share on Facebook or whatever your favorite platform happens to be. Yeah, that's all it takes. There's no secret formula to any of this. There's great news happening almost every day right now, and we should be retweeting all of it.
Right.
I mean, just based on this last vote.
It's weird. I think people are still have like troll shock from 2016, where they don't want to say, let's go Biden, because then they'll get a flood of bots and bullshit, instead of just going, they're bots and bullshit. That's what they're going to say. I give a shit. Because that's where we should be about this stuff. And that's where I am. It's why I keep doing there is no Hunter Biden laptop. I have outrun all those motherfuckers. Like they for a while, they were trying to keep up behind me and go, but it's a. They've all just none of them can compete with the reality of it. And so the same thing is true of the bill. Like, that the Senate just passed. The House is going to pass it on Friday. Biden's going to fucking sign it on Monday or maybe even Sunday, so that the Monday news can talk about it, something along those lines. And by the way, we're not going to lose in the fall, and he's going to continue building on these successes. I'm just going to say it now. Nobody should take their foot off the gas. If you do, you're a maniac. And these folks that say, like, we got control when we need the fucking VP as the bridge vote. Get out of here. We don't have we don't have the policy votes to do it. And we're still doing shit. We got gun rights. We got gun regulations. We got the infrastructure bill. We got a bunch of stuff passed through bipartisan work. I would have liked it to be more of our original bill, but we needed 60 votes because they're policy, and we managed to pass something. And that will be built on. I don't know. What do you think the major thing holding people back from cheering on Biden in particular?
I think because the left tends to be more independently minded. I think we're whatever it would be. How many votes went to Joe Biden last time around? 82 million chefs in the kitchen. We all think we know exactly the right way things should be done in the Democratic Party, each of us individually. And I think there's also a lot of I don't know, for lack of a better term, there's a lot of peer pressure on social media that if you repeat something that Joe Biden has said, or something that the Democratic Party has done right, or some legislative achievement out of Congress, you're immediately labeled as a shill and as an apologist for the Democratic establishment. I get that all the time from Cenk Uygur. Every time I say something nice about Barack Obama or Joe Biden or the Democratic Party, Bob, why are you such a cheerleader for the Democrats? Because elections are binary.
Yeah.
There are one of two parties is going to win every goddamn election.
Right.
And we hope it's the Democratic Party every single time.
Every fucking time.
So why not? I mean, and I think...
well, I'll tell you why not from his perspective. Because unlike you and I, where I think I lean, I'm more wonky. So I ended up being in talk radio, as what little I started doing on Steph's show on Wednesdays, because I read the Affordable Care Act, and when everybody was saying nobody has read it, that was the big thing. So I was like, all right, if nobody's read it, HAL Sparks will read it. So I spent 4 days, a long weekend, and I read the whole goddamn thing. And at the end of it, I was 2 weeks later, I'm on the, I was waiting for Steph to help me, promote some gigs. And I was calling into the show. I was scheduled to call into the show. It's my first time ever calling in. And she forgot about me. And I was on hold listening to the show for like 30 minutes. And everybody was calling in. Right. Everybody was calling in talking about, what's in it and what's not in it and what it should do and what it shouldn't do. And everybody was wrong. Like the right-wingers who were calling it fucking, seditious socialism, and the left-wingers who were saying it's a total giveaway to the insurance. Like it was all just shitty, like extremist talking points, and none of them were right. Like I read the fuck. It's way more boring and a lot more functional than that. It was an amazing thing that it even got passed. It has seeds of wonderfulness in it, and we could have had state-run independent states with their own independent single-payer programs like Massachusetts or California or Washington State could create their own. You could have bought across state lines if it had just continued on as a way. If Democrats hadn't handed the House and the Senate to Republicans, we would have built on that bill, and we're going that way anyways. That's where Biden wants to take it. He knows this. And in his second half of his first term, that's where they want to go. They want to extend that part out. So in California, you could buy into Massachusetts' a single payer program, and other states would have an impetus to build their own for their own citizens, and a nonprofit system where all the profits go to infrastructure, schools, like the lottery program you have in a state. It's the same fucking idea. All profits from insurance go to help other people. It's really smart, and it would be really simple to implement, but the Republicans stopped it like cold. Anyways, so I started that. I can go back to talking about that shit. I'm fine. I don't need this fucking binary, psychotic, your choices between normalcy and fucking lunatics. I don't feed on that. TYT does. TYT needs it to be a horse race between two evils all the time, so that no matter who's in power, they're always the opposition to the evil. It's more like a Waco Branch Davidian form of Christianity, than it is, a gathering of true believers.
Yeah, and there's a tactic they use where they kind of grasp onto one particular element, one thing that was maybe eliminated through the amendment process. Now because the ACA doesn't have the public option anymore, we have to kill the bill. There was a whole thing at the end of that year, at the end of 2009, I'm sure you remember, where Jane Hampshire from Fire Dog Lake and all these guys started lining up and said, we need to kill this legislation. We need to kill the Affordable Care Act because it no longer has a public option. It's like, are you out of your minds? What are you talking about? This legislation, among hundreds of other things, prevents health insurance companies from kicking people off their insurance as soon as they get sick or injured. That was rescission. That was something that was going on rampantly prior to the ACA. That alone, if that was the only thing in that legislation, that would have been a huge accomplishment for affordable healthcare. My God. And then there were dozens of other things just like that were equally as important in that legislation. I wanted there to be a public option in that legislation. But without it, I was like, well, you know what? There's still all these other things. And you could say the same exact thing about the Inflation Reduction Act. Just because it doesn't have the carried over interest thing in it anymore doesn't mean it's a piece of garbage. Oh my God. A 40% reduction in carbon emissions over the next 8 years. That's an immense accomplishment. I tweeted the other day. Yeah. In the movie, The American President, Michael Douglas's character, Alan Shepard, the president, Alan, I'm forgetting his name, something President Shepard. I forget the first name, but he talks about how their climate change, their climate crisis legislation would have reduced carbon emissions by 10%, I think it was, or no, I'm sorry, it was 20% over 10 years.
Yes.
So this is even better than the fiction that Aaron Sorkin wrote.
Right.
Whatever it was 20 years ago.
Yes.
So that's an immense accomplishment. And anyone who's going, hey, you know what? We got to punish the Democrats for passing this legislation, for dealing with Joe Manchin. They're out of their minds. They're self-defeating and they're not to be taken seriously.
And again, I honestly don't understand. Do they genuinely think that the utopian version of this stuff is actually possible? And therefore, or here's the one area where I think they come from killing it. And I've heard this with carbon capture the most. This is where it's been the most distinct in the environmentalist community. They are against carbon capture technology because they think it extends the life of fossil fuel usage, meaning that if you do this, then that will give fossil fuel companies another 10 years where they'll feel an excuse because the carbon that they're releasing and, because there's all sorts of ancillary other toxins besides the impact on climate, there's pollution aspects of it, and they will feel let off the chain to keep doing this because you're capturing the carbon. I think that's absurd because there are literally tens of thousands of coal plants and oil refineries and oil wells and the like in countries that don't bother to capture their carbon at fucking all, that building facilities like this, not just the ones that are on top of the stacks that take it out as it comes out, but ones that they're building in Finland and other places where the wind blows through and it pulls the carbon out like basically mechanical trees, that there's a reason for doing that even if you are declining what you use in your own country because there are other country, but that seems to be their fear, is that if you let this through, we're not going to get the other stuff. People will take their foot off the gas when that's what they do.
Yeah. It's frustrating because what we're seeing right now, and you can kind of include this carbon emissions line item in the Inflation Reduction Act as part of what I'm about to say. Everything we're doing right now is kind of a stopgap. And the stopgap is intended to get us to a place where nuclear fusion is actually practical, where it pumps out more electricity, more energy than it takes in to be able to run the power plants. So all we need to do is pass whatever we can to mitigate the effects of
until that technology
the climate crisis. Until we get to nuclear fusion. Once we get to nuclear fusion, then I think 99% of our fossil fuel headaches will die right then and there.
Overnight.
Provided it's not stopped. Yeah, provided it's not stopped by big oil interests and so on, who will manipulate the politics in order to slow it down, et cetera, et cetera.
Most of them are moving into running those kind of facilities because that's where the money will be, and building those kind of things. That'll be a multi-billion-dollar industry the world over as they go for it. And don't get me started on diamond batteries. It's one of my favorite new technological things. Because the idea that you're going to buy every device you have will never need a plug again makes me so fucking happy.
I know. It's incredible.
That you can have literally like your electric stove will be run off of like a small array of maybe 14 diamond batteries for 28,000 years. We don't even know the environmental possibilities that we're going into, and true scientific, true scientific miracles are indistinguishable from magic. Like, we're getting into that. Okay, so we've got 10 minutes left, and I and I tend to filibuster. It's how I do it. You can tell I'm not used to having guests on. So this is my attempt to do this. So I want to go through. I usually go through the trends in the morning on the morning show, and so I'm going to run a couple by you, and I want to get your take on them. First of all, the number one I think is the insulin thing right now.
Oh
the decision. I'm sure you're aware of it, but catch people up on your opinion on it and what happened with it today.
Yeah. This is where the Republican tactic of owning the libs has slammed face first into practical reality, because what they thought was, let's screw up the Democrats by denying them of another success, and that'll show them that, those goddamn meddling kids will we'll pants them good, won't we? And what happens is then everyone who's paying who knows what rates for insulin every month, exorbitant gouged rates, are going, wait, what are you doing? What are you doing? And we know the people who vote in midterms and primaries more often than anyone else, and that is older people. Older people who need insulin. And so it's just like the PACT Act, just like when they filibustered the PACT Act. Before they were against it, before they were for it, and now they're for it again. Regardless, that was one of the things where, they screwed us on the Inflation Reduction Act, so we're going to deny them the PACT Act. We're going to deny Dark Brandon and the Democrats a huge success on, saving veterans from glioblastoma. And we're going to own those Democrats. And then, of course, it backfires. So I think we're in some sort of weird shift away from the efficacy of owning the libs, and I think this insulin story is a big example of that.
I think the Democrats have a silver bullet in this situation, which is real help for real people. It even works against the progressives in that it's really hard for when every Democrat, and even if and they managed to get not enough, but a few Republicans to sign on with doing this. And it fails anyways because we are short of the policy number we would need. We're short of the 60 votes. If we had 5 more senators, that would have passed yesterday. You accidentally hit on one of the other trends things, which is hashtag Dark Brandon. So touch on Dark Brandon for us. Give us the Bob Cesca go on.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite new memes. And I think it's a great way. I think it's a way that only social media can produce into, I think voicing some serious support for Joe Biden. I think in a weird way, this could turn support around for Joe Biden. I think this could actually help his chances in 2024, at least among people who, have their faces in the red hot plasma stream of Twitter every day. He's going to start to say, okay, well, I want to support Dark Brandon. Maybe Joe Biden he's Joe Biden, and he defeated Donald Trump and he's got these successes, but Joe Biden. And this way, it gives internet people something to be enthusiastic and have fun with.
Right.
Yeah, some ownership of. If you've created a Dark Brandon meme, you've kind of got some ownership in the success of Joe Biden. So I think it's only a positive thing.
I agree. I think that's great. It is International Cat Day. I don't know if you have pets.
Not right now, but I usually do. Yes.
Oh, okay. Your son. It's interesting because my girlfriend and I foster cats, and no pressure. All right, we'll get to it later. Also, the Maggie Haberman toilet story.
Oh God, yeah. That's fake news, Hal. They're just making that up. Maggie's making up that story.
She just went around
forged his handwriting.
His handwriting and threw it in a toilet just for shock value. As if, by the way, wasn't your reaction like when you saw the picture, you're like, oh, I know, but did I need to see it? Like, of course. I don't need convincing.
Is that the same toilet he's taking a dump in and tweeting every 6 o'clock in the morning every day? I thought it would be golden, Hal. I thought it was very gold-plated.
I think that's the one the staff uses, he probably goes, go flush these. Like he gives them to Mark Meadows, and Mark Meadows has to use the little bathroom on the plane. You know what I'm talking about?
Right. But you know, the real revelation coming out of today, as far as a book goes, is the one from, I forget the authors, but they're from the New Yorker, I think. And they wrote this thing, once again, Donald Trump insulting the troops. The same party that branded supporting the troops 20 years ago is just, you know, they're just abandoning the troops left and right between the PACT Act and Donald Trump. Yeah. And I mean, the thing that you talk about all the time on your show, the Sir stories, that I always thought that was Donald Trump's worst insult to the troops, because what he's doing is he's mocking his generals for laughs.
He's also genericizing every human being who works in the military and government, and
yeah.
So this is the
quote between all those things, right?
This is the troops party. Trump said, "Look, I don't want any wounded guys in the parade. This doesn't look good for me." And Kelly said, "Those are the heroes in our society. There's only one group of people more heroic than they are, and they're buried over in Arlington." And Trump went, "I don't want them." And by the way, that's totally believable, because what was he trying to do at the time? He was trying to copy the Russian and North Korean parades. He didn't want these weren't real military parades. They were shows of force. So he wanted big, strong people goose stepping, basically. You know, just gross. That's in the New Yorker. Just hideous.
Yeah. And I think part of it too is that he was concerned that if he has wounded veterans at his parade, that people are going to blame him for wounding them. Like, it's to Donald Trump's. He's done something that's and
what happened to those
I think
guys?
That was a genuine concern. Yeah, like he was going to be held responsible for them being wounded, or he's got some sort of thing where he doesn't want to personally feel, he doesn't want to see the wounded troops because it actually affects him in some way.
I don't know. Captain Turp in our chat is saying it's Bastille Day. In the article it says, like, after Bastille Day, he turned to his generals and said, "You're going to be doing this next year. That this is, you know, we're going to do one of these because this is fucking sweet. You know, this like stomping around and showing off your shit." But he wanted his to be like the Russian and the North Korean and the Chinese gatherings. He didn't want a bunch of people in wheelchairs showing that people are dedicated. I mean, there might be a thing about him being ick around injured and sick people anyways. Like, he's always uncomfortable. I mean, look at, like, was there a time when he visited, you know, soldiers at Walter Reed that were sick and injured more than once? I mean, I know he, you know.
I do know that he's got a weird thing about death. I think he's got a morbid, grisly fascination with death. And I'm sure you've seen him more. A lot of times, just when he gets into that area of discussion. Like, I remember this thing that there was reported on at the time where he was in the Oval Office and he was talking about Andrew Jackson's wife. And he was obsessed with the fact that she died while Andrew Jackson was in office. And he just kept going over about, he was so sad because she died. She died. And it was like high-pitched, whispery Trump.
Yeah, right.
He says, she died. She was so dead. And it was so tragic. Because she died. And the way that he buried Ivana is another great example of that. Where it's like, I don't, he's like suddenly Jerry Lewis in The Nutty Professor. Glaven, I'll bury him in the golf course and the thing next to the tees.
Dude,
and the clubs.
It's the biggest white trash thing I've ever seen. I'm from Kentucky. And it sounds like, I mean, it was like, I've heard conversations like, we cannot bury her in the yard, Sam. Like, I've heard those conversations live at church. I saw an argument at our church about a guy who wanted to bury it, his mother on the farm near the house, and instead of in the cemetery at the church. And there was this argument going on. I was in Sunday school, and there was this argument going on in the preacher's little office about this. You could hear it through the walls. They were just vicious about it. And it was just hideous. And it's exactly that. Like, but at no point, and this guy wanted his mother close to him, but God damn it, she's not going to be in some cross town, whatever. What if they move this? What, there's a flood, blah, 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 all this shit. She's like, flood, our property floods, you dumb son of a bitch. And at no point, though, did this man yell at the preacher and his wife, but think about the tax breaks.
You see, that's what I refer to the Trumps as the Fifth Avenue Clampetts, because that's, I mean, the secret about them is they're so tacky and so tasteless. All you got to do is look at his penthouse on Fifth Avenue at the top of Trump Tower, just gold plated. Just they don't. Yeah,
what's your over under on when they knock the title off that building? What's your over 3 years? Under 3 years? God,
I was hoping. Yeah, I was hoping to just have it demolished and put like a COVID memorial there or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, put like. Yeah,
stripped, fumigated, deloused, and turned into a
that's right,
into NIMBY homes. So
yeah,
that was the.
But where are the Chinese going to get their office space then? That's just the thing, because we've already heard reports about that. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
The Russian. Well, they obviously they can't be in 665 or whatever 660. They've changed the number on that building. That we're out of time. This went blazingly fast. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
You know what, Hal? This is like being a comedian on the Tonight Show and being called over to talk to Johnny. That's what this is. I swear to God, man, you do amazing work. Your show should be on every television network. But I'm glad that it's here. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it. I'm on far too long, and I say too many grown-up words for to have me, and I couldn't be happier. And we'll do this again, because I have between now and the election, there will be a myriad of times where we'll have to address, the wrenching of garments and the wailing and gnashing of teeth. I have no doubt.
Right.
So
anytime, man.
Yeah, everybody follow Bob Cesca Go. There's an underscore in that. If you can't see that, I put it in the title underneath them so that you can do them on Twitter. And
because I'm an idiot.
Oh, the joy we have. No, well, you gotta, and that's why I have HAL Sparks even on Truth Social. If something pops up, I get my name. So no squatters. That's
good for you, man.
I just stupidest thing in the world. I gotta jump in there. Yeah,
that's one of the dumbest thing ever did. Hey, this will be great. I'll have an underscore in my Twitter handle. That'll be smart.
People squint and miss it, or like, is it there? Or there? Yeah, at some point. But anyways, thanks so much, chat room. Thanks for the support today. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for the super chats and being part of the morning show. And I'll see you guys this afternoon. And follow Bob Cesca. So, Bob, what time's your show on and when?
I do a show Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. So anytime about 6 o'clock Eastern time, that's when they drop. About that
great.
time. Yeah.
Cool. And they're pre-recorded.
Just pre-recorded podcasts. Yeah. BobCescaShow.com. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, cool. And then do you play them on a YouTube channel, or do they do it straight to your website?
Oh yeah, there's no video. I'm not nearly as sophisticated as that. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not smart enough. So yeah, just audio only. Everywhere you get your podcasts. Yeah.
Okay, great. So Bob Cesca Show on iTunes or any of the others. Yeah. There you go. Excellent. Glad we all worked that out. I'm not as finely tuned about this as Stuttering John is at getting people. If you got anything to promote, just go ahead and do it before I get to the gambling and weed. So much love. Thank you for joining me today. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks to the chat room for joining us today. And I will see you guys this afternoon at 3 o'clock. Peace out.
Thanks, Al.
Yeah. Cheers.